Welcome to today's very small Hypnotherapy Uncensored monthly spotlight. We hold these on the first Wednesday of most every month, but I took a few months off and now I'm getting them revved back up again, which is probably why people aren't aware that we're doing them again. So I'll have to splash that around. But this is all about just sitting down with fascinating professionals, or at least professionals I find fascinating from across the hypnosis, wellness, and coaching spaces. And it's all about just having real conversations and getting practical insights and, the kinds of discussions that you might only hear like behind the scenes at conferences or late night networking dinners. This is not your super polished, super professional stuff. There's no gatekeeping, no fluff, just honest conversations, different perspectives, and a lot of really great resources and free education. These spotlights have been running since 2021, which means there's an entire library of free interviews and trainings and these kinds of conversations available to you on our YouTube channel. I will pop that into the chat in just a moment. And if you want email reminders for the upcoming spotlights, I will also pop that into a chat. It'll just say opt in to get reminders. And you can also reach out to me if you have any ideas for future spotlights or if you yourself are curious. Okay, so today we're sitting down with Maria Lernerman, founder of Discover Your Power Birth and Baby. And I'm going to read now because I don't have this all memorized. But Maria went from being genuinely afraid of birth to having 3 unmedicated natural births and fully embracing the experience, which completely changed the trajectory of her life and her work. She now teaches the Mongan Method, Hypnobirthing, and helps families approach birth from a place of understanding, trust, empowerment, and nervous system regulation rather than fear and tension. In addition to being a hypnobirthing educator, you are also a hypnotist and certified lactation counselor, and giving your uniquely grounded practical perspective on all things pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and lactation, and the mind-body connection involved with all of that. So whether you're here because you're curious about hypnobirthing or working with clients that are, or perhaps you're pregnant or perhaps looking to become pregnant at some point in the future, stick around. This is going to be a fascinating conversation about the psychology, the physiology, the emotional experience, all of it, of one of the most transformative experiences that any human can ever have. I think it tops. It's like birth and death. Those are the 2 tops, right? As far as transformative experiences go. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. Maria, I do have some questions that I wrote down to ask you, but if you want to share anything, just like right off the cuff, did I get everything right? Did you want to correct anything? Did I miss anything?
You didn't miss anything. I figured I'll just mention, I think it's pretty obvious, but just in case it's not, I'm not a Hypnobirthing Institute's kind of official spokesman. I'm just one of the 2,000 educators worldwide who teaches the program. So all the views that expressed here are mine, mistakes are mine, misunderstandings, they're all mine. So there you go. That out of the
That's
way.
great. Yeah, cover your ass. I get it. All right. So the first question, actually, I really want to know because I did not use hypnobirthing because I didn't know about it at the time. My kids, my youngest are twins that are 24 now. So, and I have only been doing this for the last decade. But you had mentioned that you were genuinely afraid of birth in one of our correspondences. And I'm wondering, is that how you first discovered hypnobirthing?
That's how I first discovered natural birth. And like a lot of things in my life, it kind of happened by accident. So um, so my son, my oldest one, is turning 17 this year. And my pregnancy was amazing. It was really great. I was very active. I wasn't very sick. It was as good as one could ask, but I was really terrified of the birth part. And so I happened to have met a friend who was also pregnant. Our boys were actually born 4 days apart.
Hmm.
And she said, I'm going to have a natural birth. I'm going to have a birth at a birth center. And I was baffled. I was the kind of parent that I now warn my clients about, right? Because like people will do that when moms say, I'm going to have a natural birth, and people go, no, it's completely impossible. This is really horrible. Like, what do you think you're doing? And so I was
That was
ready.
you. That was your response to your friend.
That was me, unfortunately. And
Oh my gosh.
And I said, but you have choices. Why would you do this to yourself? And she said, exactly, I have choices, and this is what I choose. And you should look into it and understand the benefits to mom and baby. And so she got me
Mm.
curious enough where I started researching. And lo and behold, we ended up taking a natural birth class. It wasn't hypnobirthing. I didn't get exposed to hypnobirthing until my third one.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
and just my mind changed so quickly. My view changed so quickly. How I felt about things changed so quickly. I was really, really surprised. And then I went on to have just a wonderful, wonderful birth. I couldn't, like, I felt like on top of the world, as a lot of my clients do after they have their babies. And I couldn't believe I've almost cheated myself out of that because I was
Mm.
afraid. And at that point, I thought at some point in my life, if I have an opportunity, I want to share this with people because I know what it's like to be scared.
Yeah.
And I also know what it's like to change and to have an experience that's really, really different. So, and not surprisingly, after I had my son, as years went on, I just kept on running into friends, into acquaintances, into other people whose birth stories weren't like mine at all. They were traumatic, right? Over 1 in 3 people who give birth are traumatized by the experience.
I had a natural birth though, but
Mm,
I also had an as of yet undiagnosed bleeding disorder. So I died in the first one. She was big, I was little, and
yeah,
I bled out. But I came back, obviously. Hey, I'm here. But that was pretty
yeah,
traumatizing. And so I wish that I had discovered hypnobirthing by my second child. I think that would have made a world of difference. Because we found out about the bleeding disorder, I was able, so my first one was at home. So I had to be medically transported to the
yeah.
hospital, which is where I died. So the second one, at least, still natural birth, no drugs or anything, but definitely a whole lot of anxiety and fear because of what happened before. So I would
Yeah.
have been a great candidate for this. Yeah.
And for most people, it's nothing that traumatic. It's not that they have a bleeding disorder, right? It's just that they come in, they don't know their choices and their options. They don't know how their body works. They don't
Right.
know how to bring themselves into a more comfortable state. And so
And then
they,
there's also like the authoritarian aspect of the medical personnel and you feeling
yeah,
like, do I have any
right.
like autonomy or do I just have to do what you say? Yeah. So,
Yeah. I think there's a lot of loss of control.
mm-hmm,
And so
absolutely.
trauma in birth isn't necessarily related to what the birth looked like, but how the person was treated, whether or not they felt in control.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my goal is to empower people so that they not only know how to work with their body, their breath, with their mind, with all of that, but also how to work with the healthcare system, how to create the environment, how to make
Yes.
sure dads are involved. That's all a big part of the program too.
Oh, that's great. So, and that perfectly segues into my next question, which is Maria, what do you think modern culture gets wrong about the birth process? And I mean, labor, delivery, all of it.
I think a lot of people see, and a lot of providers, unfortunately, see birth as a medical event,
Mm. Instead of a
right?
natural event.
Something to be managed, something that has to happen in the allotted period of time. And
Yeah, we live
when,
in a litigious society. And I think that
yes,
that plays a huge part. People don't want to be held liable for.
absolutely, absolutely. And OBGYNs are sued so often. So
Yeah.
it's definitely, definitely a part of it. And look, I think you have to first of all, people have choices, and the experience that people are going to have at a birth center, a standalone birth center, is going to be very different from the experience they have at a hospital. And then the
Mm-hmm.
provider they work with, that also will influence the experience that they have tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as part of the program, we want parents to know that you have all these choices in terms of how you birth, where you birth with who, and
I
how
did that with
different.
my second
Yeah.
because of what happened with my first. With my second, I made this very detailed birth plan. And then
Mm,
I don't think anybody actually read it. It was like 9 pages long though, so that's on me. It should have been like two, right? But I was like so traumatized by the first one. Like, I'm not gonna forget anything. But when things are moving quickly, they can't stop and be like, page 7, paragraph 3 says what? So yeah,
right.
but I wish that I had had somebody like you in my life at the time. But that's so great that you're doing this for people, and I love that you're taking this integrative approach. And it is a natural thing. I mean, since the dawn of everything, not just humankind, all life, there's been birth. It's not a medical event. It is, in fact, just how we continue to exist and thrive. So I love that you're taking that out of it and just
Yeah.
looking at it like it is just something that your body does.
Yeah.
We
So I
treat
think,
all of it like a medical event. We treat menopause, like all of it as if it's this medical thing that needs to be managed. So I'm so glad there's people like you in the world that are like educating others to look at it differently. So go
yeah.
ahead. What were you going to say? Sorry.
So I think a lot of what we do in the program isn't so much learning as like kind of unlearning
Mm, love
fears,
that.
unlearning beliefs, unlearning the way we view the world. Because
Yeah.
so much of birth is just, and you would know it, so much of birth is just allowing things to happen, right? This body knows how to give birth.
Yeah. Yep,
And
it
so it's just
does.
allowing things to happen, which can be really difficult for some people, right? To just allow things to happen. So it's kind of a non-doing, learning or unlearning that
Right.
happens in the program.
Right. Yeah. Just surrendering to the process. And you and I know because we're hypnotists, but, and Rachel does too. But for anybody who might be watching this, in the future that might not know this, fear itself creates tension, which then exacerbates pain.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's one of the core building blocks of the program, understanding the relationship between fear, tension, and pain. And so there are multiple layers of muscles in the uterus, and they work together. And so the inner layer of muscles is actually supposed to relax and be pulled up. And the
Mm,
very outer layer of muscles is what pulls the inner muscles up. And so when moms are relaxed, the uterus works as it's intended to work. But when moms are afraid, it creates tension in the body and it creates pain. So it's just a very different experience of birth when moms are relaxed. Which is why relaxation and sort of we teach relaxation in so many ways. And there's the mind part, there's a body part, there's a mind-body connection. Just so that these moms, these birthing people are really good at relaxing. So, and then you asked me about the misconceptions about natural birth. I think one misconception is it's for certain kinds of people, kind of like, oh, well, anybody who's done it must have a really high pain threshold or be really
mm-hmm.
motivated or just somehow is different, right? Like, I can't do it because I don't have these special skills. And if somebody did it, that's because they have these special skills. And that's just not true at
Right.
all
For
in my
thousands
experience,
and thousands and thousands of years prior to the advent of having pain blockers, women were giving birth. It didn't
right?
require any special skills. It just required a small community of other women.
Right. But no matter, if people come in relaxed and connected with their body, great. If people come in and they're anxious and disconnected from their body, you know what? That calm, that comfort, it can be learned.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important one to get out of the way that no matter, like, you don't have to be special. It doesn't take a special person and
No
it can be
superpowers
taught.
needed.
No superpowers needed. There's
Right.
a quote that makes its way online often enough about birth, and it says, "You birth the way you live life." And like
Mm.
I just think it's bullshit because I was like a pretty anxious, high-strung
Mm.
person when I gave birth, and at birth I was calm, I was relaxed, I was in control, I was allowing. It was wonderful. So.
Yeah. So that's great to throw that out the window. Yeah. Um, I don't know that I would want to birth the way that I live life, honestly. I'm like very inconsistent and totally have ADHD, although that might, I don't know, be a benefit during the labor process, just being so easily distracted. Um, do you think that, or I don't know if it's a thinking process because you probably already know, but can hypnobirthing help someone who definitely plans to have an epidural or any medical interventions because of something like what I had, like a bleeding disorder? I didn't need to have an epidural, but I did need to have everybody like ready and waiting. It was a whole circus of medical personnel ready just in case I, you know, hemorrhaged. So even if somebody knows that they might have to have medical intervention, would hypnobirthing still help them? Is I guess the question.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I don't work. So a lot of people that come to work with me are looking to have a natural birth, but there are people who just want to have less fear. And I've
Hmm.
worked with multiple couples who were going to have a surgical birth, and they still wanted to have these tools for their, because it's not just about birth, it's also the tools that we give them for pregnancy. So it's
Hmm.
a more joyful, calmer pregnancy. And then the surgery itself can be an experience that they can advocate for better for their choices, for how they want it to be, because you do have choice no matter what birth looks like in all these situations, whether there are interventions needed, whether it's a surgical birth, people have choices. And so they're better able to advocate for themselves. They're able to bring peace and calm into the process. And then the healing process is better. The bonding process is better. I mean, it's definitely not just for natural birth.
How about the partners?
Partners are really, really important. So,
Yeah. So can
um,
hypnobirthing help with that? Because like honestly,
with
sometimes the
partners.
partners are the most like nervous in the room and they're the wild card that can throw everything, off kilter.
I see, I think it's interesting. In the first class, we talk about what comes to mind when people hear the word birth. And then we also talk about what people's sort of ideal birth experience would look like. And they can be as creative as they want, right? I wish I could
Mhm.
birth like on a beach while, whatever it is.
Right, right.
And so moms, birthing people, they typically have a vision, a view for their birth. But their partners are like, I just want her to be safe. I just want the
Mm,
baby to be okay. There's like not a view. There's like, I'm here. I want to help. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm just gonna like someone tell me.
right. Yeah.
And through the processes we do in class and then the work that they do together, it's just I think that dads and partners, they just transform almost like more than moms. Because
Well, yeah,
they
because they came into it really not having any information and
yeah,
probably feeling very disconnected because they haven't been living in a female body, you
yeah.
know? So I can absolutely see that. Yeah.
I think it's almost like a disempowered position potentially because they aren't the ones who it's happening
Mm,
to. They aren't the medical provider.
right.
And so, but going through the program, it just makes such a difference because they're on the same page, like they're ready to protect the space for mom. So, because the environment is so important. And so,
Hmm.
whatever negotiation, conversation, whatever has to happen with the healthcare providers, they're ready to take over that. They have the tools to bring mom deeper into relaxation. They're able to do
Are you
massage.
there in the room with them or are you training the partners to take over that role?
I'm training the partners to take over
Mm.
that role. And then also, if they want to bring their doula into the class as well,
Hmm. Hmm.
doulas can attend.
Perfect. Rachel, did you have any questions at all? Like, since you're our audience right now, did you have any questions that you would like to ask Maria about this process? You don't have kids at this point, but I think you had mentioned at
No.
some point you might. So you're the perfect
Yeah,
audience.
so yeah. So I don't have any kids right now, but we're in the process of trying and stuff like that. And so one main thing for me is like Chris, I have some medical issues, but it's not like her medical. Mine is like I have like a lot of back conditions like degenerative disc disorder, stuff like that. And so that means that potentially epidural is not in my favor. And so it's very fascinating when I found out about hypnobirthing. And in working in the phlebotomy field, I would go into these rooms, and as soon as they're like, "Mom's about to push," I'm like, "Get the blood, get out." Like, I'm like, I don't want to anywhere near it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to see it. I was the one that was like, real quick, even in the bathtub, real quick, let me go ahead and draw your blood and get out of here so you can do your thing.
Wow.
But I also experienced from a third party coming in and witnessing like people utilizing hypnobirthing from,
Mm.
the soundtrack that they had chosen, which was more like serenity, keeping the lights low, so adjusting to the mom's, request for her
Kind of
birth.
the absolute opposite of what a normal hospital room situation looks like and
Yeah,
feels like.
they
Yeah.
even had like, they had the what is it, the diffuser in there and
Mm.
everything like that. So that was really fascinating to me. I was like, oh, this is different than majority of the rooms that I go into. But I didn't really think anything of it. And then, of course, then I became a hypnotist, and I'm like, and now I've gone down that rabbit hole as an option for myself, just because I'm not quite sure if and I was already like years back, like I don't want an epidural and stuff. So, um, just because of the back conditions and stuff like that for medical reasons. But I was like, but I also don't want to personally feed a bunch of pain medication, even though they say it doesn't cross the barrier. I'm like, if it crosses the brain barrier, I'm like still hesitant to cross that to a child, kind of thing. And so I've always been interested in alternative concepts.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I love your description of the room and how different the room looked because it makes a difference. And we talk
Mhm.
about creating the environment. And the environment is primarily for mom, so dimming the lights.
Mhm.
If there's any equipment that's beeping, making sure the sound is off. Putting a sign on the door saying we're a hypnobirthing family. Maybe they have a
Mhm.
diffuser going or candles or whatever.
Mhm.
But the providers, when they walk into the room, like I just hear it all the time from parents. They're like, oh, they walked in there, like whole energy changed. They bring
Mm.
their voices down. It's a different interaction.
Mhm.
It's like setting the tone for everyone else as well, not
Yeah.
just the family that's hypnobirthing. Yeah.
Yeah.
With my second, I did have him in a birthing center, but it was attached to a hospital because we knew bleeding disorder. Um, Everything went fine though with me. Actually, he had some complications, but and I didn't need anything, and it was a great natural birth. It was a little on the long side, if you ask me. 13 hours is plenty. But I was so lucky with that one because the nurse that I had actually knew reflexology, and so she was like um, massaging my feet at different points to
Hmm.
help with the contractions and the pain and all that. But he was also like a normal sized baby. He was only 7 pounds. My first one was like over 9. So that had its own set of complications. The twins, on the other hand, that was the circus. That was the one that was the complete and total circus. And they were like, no birthing room for you. You have a high risk pregnancy and you've got a bleeding disorder and all these things. By the way, I've cured the bleeding disorder with self hypnosis back in 2020. I don't have it
Wow.
anymore. Yeah. Um, and I have the blood assays to prove it. I have receipts. But anyway, yeah, with the twins, that was that thing that you were talking about, Rachel, like um, the opposite of that really nice, mellow, hypnobirthing type atmosphere. It was just, it was a madhouse. There was 3 different anesthesiologists. There was 3 different doctors. There was 3 different nurses. It was like, yeah, because there had to be one for me and one for each of them. It was nuts. And
Yeah.
bright lights and people at the top of their voices, and just so not conducive to a relaxing situation at all.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have an advocate, somebody that could have just said, hey, make the room this way, and that will help to change. I don't know how much it would have changed things once we actually got into delivery, but for the room that I was in labor in, it I'm sure it would have
Yeah.
changed things quite a bit. Yeah.
I have two almost kind of opposite thoughts on that. When
Yeah.
one is, this is why we train, not train, but this is why we talk about it with dads that they are in charge unless there's a doula and they know that doula is responsible for lights or music or whatever, that dads are in charge of this and like think about it, plan for it. But on the other hand, I also tell people that look, if you happen to have this baby in the car, if you happen to, plan a home birth, but then you have to be in the hospital, whatever is happening around you, you have your skills that you've learned, you have your breath, you
So you
have your
can still
partner.
internally regulate
Absolutely.
despite the chaos around you. Yeah.
Absolutely. So while it's nice to have, I mean, we're animals, right? Animals will stop their birth. And like if there's a predator and the animal's giving birth,
Yeah.
they'll stop their birth, they run away, right? And so there's an element of that, but there's also an element of like you have choice.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, no matter what step is next, you can handle it and you have the tools to create that experience for yourself. It's really, really, really important.
Can you walk us through just sort of an overview of what you take the parents through? Or I guess maybe it's not always parents. It might be, a doula and the mother or whatever. But like, so you said you do start off with talking about how much whoever's going to be helping them, how much their support really means, right? And
Mhm.
then you go into some relaxation and stuff. So sort of like, can you give us like the bird's eye view of what you go through with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a complete birth preparation program. So we actually cover everything from pregnancy nutrition to breastfeeding.
Mm,
And
wow.
we talk about the healthcare system and we prepare birth preferences. So like we do all of it. And then of course we talk about the fear, tension, pain cycle, and then what do you do? So we do a lot of nervous regulation work, so breath work, relaxation, visualization, affirmations, which I thought was interesting. You recently talked about at the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we talk a lot about the wisdom of the body.
Mm-hmm.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of that from like doing to not doing to releasing to allowing. Like even framing control is letting go. Now, in terms of the specifics, we start with bonding actually, bonding with each other and bonding with the baby.
Mm,
It's like, why are you talking about bonding in the birth class, right? And one, when people are in like states like love, connection, gratitude, they're high potency states that are
and
incompatible with fear.
oxytocin.
And
So really,
oxytocin,
yes.
exactly. And
And we want
mom,
that.
exactly, because moms who have higher oxytocin level in the third trimester actually have more comfortable births.
Yes.
So
And
it's
happier babies.
yes. And talking to your baby as your baby's being born makes a very big difference.
Yep.
It actually brings birthing people in connection with their body a lot more. And so if you start developing that bond with the baby, if you're talking to them, if you're interacting, you're also creating a better environment for the baby.
Yeah.
So when I was training, my instructor said, "Oh, the hypnobirthing babies are more mellow." I was like, I don't know about
Of
that.
course.
I
Really?
now I hear about it all the time.
I would think so. Yeah.
It,
Also,
yeah.
I listened to a lot of music because my husband was a musician, and
Mhm.
all of my kids are massive music lovers. Two of them are musicians, and I feel like they were born already knowing the songs just from hearing that while they're in utero. Um, but yeah, talking to them all the time, reading to them. I did not get the memo on the bonding with dad, though. That probably would have been helpful. I don't know how much he would have actually participated, though, because he was from more of that older school generation where, like,
Mm.
the father doesn't want to be part of that, situation. Like, no, you just let me know when it's over, you know, that kind of thing. So, um,
Yeah.
I love that,
This,
that you start with the bonding, though.
yeah. And then we do a lot of self-exploration work. So people gain insight into their beliefs, fears, limiting thoughts. And then
Mm,
hypnotically, we work with these and we release the fears. So it's one of the big components, the fear release process that we do.
beautiful. And then they can take those tools and use them
Yeah.
like forever, not just during the
Yes.
labor and delivery, but yeah,
Yes.
that's awesome.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
Um, we work on reclaiming and resurfacing and just reminding them of their strength and power. So building these powerful states and kind
Mm-hmm.
of anchoring them. We spent time visualizing birth and future. And I think like that helps create that sort of arc that this doesn't last forever. And
Right.
also like allows you. So I think so much of this is also like mentally being forward looking,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
like looking forward, being solutions oriented. And
And
by
also getting you
vision,
familiar with the potential future outcomes of whatever that is, so that when you get there, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm already familiar with this.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And getting them to visualize bonding with their baby, holding their baby for the first time and like looking in their baby's eyes. And it's just that piece I find tends to be quite transformative, especially for dads. 'Cause
Mm.
they kind of like, oh, I've connected with my baby. I once worked with a couple and as we were done with the process, Dad said, I don't even know what you were saying because I saw her like here in the living room and I saw her like running around and she was already like growing up and like I just watched her.
Wow, that's powerful. Do you do this work only in person then, or is it something you can do online with the couples
I do it
or the
mostly
partners?
online now.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I actually started it in person thinking that that would be more enjoyable and more people would want to do it. But people prefer, I think, the comfort of online. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a challenge to figure out because the classes are very interactive. So I'm like, how do
So
I
you do
keep it?
groups,
Yes,
not one-on-one. Okay.
yes. I
Mm-hmm.
do some one-on-ones, but I mostly do groups.
Okay.
And
And do
I,
you find that you have enough clients? Is it pretty lucrative?
so I keep my groups pretty small.
Okay.
So I limit it at 5.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
usually it's, 3 to 5 people in the class. I also don't do it. It's a mix of people in terms of educators. Some of them are hypnotherapists. They do fertility, they do pain management. Maybe they're a doula, so they just do a whole number of things. And for some people, it's just one of the things that they do.
Oh, I see. Okay. In the method that you are familiar with, some people just choose like one tract. Is that what you mean?
No, no, no. So I mean, some people, like one of the educators I recently chatted with, she's in Mexico and she is going to be one of the first doulas in the country, or at least one of the first doulas in her city, because it isn't the thing, right? And so
Hmm.
she's a doula and she is advocating for women's rights and she's working with the legislators on changing regulation in Mexico to allow
Wow.
dads in the room and to change processes in the hospital. So she does a lot of things, and one of the things she does is teaching hypnobirthing.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's what you meant. Yeah, got it,
Right.
got it, got it. All right.
So it's
Um,
one of the things I do.
let's see. We've already actually covered some of the questions that I had written down, so I don't need to ask those. Okay, here's a good one for our audience of Rachel, plus all the others that will watch this later. From your perspective as both a hypnotist and a hypnobirthing educator, what do you think is perhaps the most misunderstood part about hypnosis in medical spaces? Because you're working in medical spaces as well, yeah?
What is the most misunderstood? Mm, I think it really differs. I'm not sure that do you think there's a single misunderstanding about hypnosis in general? Like when you
Um,
think about
I
it.
personally don't run into that, but it seems to be a very big topic and theme in some of the Facebook groups I'm in. And so I figured I would ask it because there's a lot of people that do seem to think that there's a lot of misunderstandings out there about what hypnosis is. I don't run into those people. I don't know if I just have sheltered myself so much and gotten rid of all of the people who wouldn't understand
Yeah.
or like what, but and that's possible, you know. I do repel people as well as attract in equal parts. But I don't find it an issue at all. And when I'm taught, like when I talk to a medical professional, most of the time they're very curious. Now, if there is a misunderstanding at all, it usually has more to do with claims, like
Mm,
what does it feel like? Um, can you cure cancer? Are you claiming you can cure cancer? I'm like, no, of course not. Nothing can have like a bona fide claim to cure anything, really, right?
mhm.
Um, so that, but I don't
Yeah.
run into that very often. It's so rare, so rare. So anyway, I just figured I would ask you because it's such a big topic. I'm like, well, maybe everybody else is running into it, and I'm just the only one who doesn't.
No, so with my clients, interestingly, probably at least 2/3, maybe 3/4 of my clients are in the healthcare field. So they're physician assistants, they're nurses, they are occupational therapists, physical
Okay,
therapists. No MDs yet, but really like everybody else in the
right.
healthcare space. And I think that a lot of people have had some meditation experience or yoga experience or mindfulness experience or visualization or some component they can relate to. And they
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, that makes sense.
And they might have even seen or heard of somebody who did hypnobirthing in a medical space because they're
Right.
also in that space. So that's a great word of mouth in a way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think with some of the healthcare providers who are not so supportive, and sometimes it's shocking to me that they would come from someone who chose to practice work with birthing people, they say, oh, it just doesn't work like that, or you won't get it. Or like women think they want it, but they don't.
Hmm. So
And
I would say that that might answer the question then. That's like maybe the biggest misunderstanding is from the medical providers, the handful or few that there are that say like, oh, that's not how it works, or that's not what they want.
yeah,
Um, I will tell you with my twins, I wasn't planning on having an epidural or spinal block or anything like that. And I ended up not, but not like, here's what happened. It got to be too late. And we were like in hour 14, and I was finally in so much pain after 14 hours of labor with two babies, and uterine muscles just are done. They're like, I'm done. And they wanted to do a C-section. And I was like, just a little bit longer. Like, I really want to avoid having a C-section. Um, and then I said, you know what? Go ahead and give me the epidural. And they're like, well, we can't. You're already like 8 centimeters. You're too far along. We can't give you an epidural. So I was like,
yeah.
the fact that I had put it off for too long. And then finally I was like, no, now. And they were like, sorry, you missed your window.
All right.
But it would have been good at that point to have somebody who could be like, it's okay. We just deal with whatever emerges. Unexpected circumstances happen, Kryssa. You've got tools.
Right.
But instead, I
Oh
was
yeah.
just like bereft. I was like, okay, fine, we'll just have to get through it. But I do remember in my slightly hallucinatory state after that many hours of labor and not sleeping well for several months before that. Um, I was like, can we just go home and I'll do this tomorrow? Like, let's just schedule it for tomorrow. I can't, I'm too tired. The
That's usually a good sign. So when the mom says, I can't do it, I want to go home, can I do it tomorrow? That means you're probably quite close to meeting your baby.
Yeah. Well, and it was true. At least baby number one. It took 29 more minutes for baby number two. It's very long, 29 minutes, but yes. Um,
I actually, a lot of people, parents, when they come into the class, they're like, oh, I just want to have like a quick labor. And uh, my third labor is actually the longest, and that's the one I like the most
hmm,
because I could really get into the process. Like with the
hmm.
first one, it was faster. And like it just felt like it moved quickly. As soon as I was like, oh, okay, I figured it out. We just moved on to something else.
Yeah, because you know it was coming. And also knowing that it's not a permanent condition.
Yeah.
I think that
And and
helps a
I
lot.
and I think like with the third one, it was perfect. It was actually th 13 hours, like
Hmm.
starting counting from the time it required my attention. So it was somewhat longer than that.
Right,
But
right.
like I enjoyed it. I thought that was great. Like I enjoy it
Wow.
longer because then I could really settle into it. And like I was in the birthing that one was the first two were in the hospital. The third one was in the birth center. So I was in a tub and
So
I
a whole
asked
different
everyone
experience.
to sit down because they were standing up. And I was like, you're like ruining my vibe here. Please sit down. So we were all sitting down, we were chatting. And, during the surge, I just closed my eyes and I relaxed. And like it was wonderful. It was perfect.
Oh, I love that. So, out of curiosity, since you mentioned it before, did you notice a temperamental change or difference between babies one and two and then the hypnobirthing baby number three?
I did. But I also, but I also, to be fair, probably parent differently too.
Yeah, well, because you're getting a little better too, right? Yeah.
And
Learning,
because I think when you learn hypnosis, just, you are different, you parent
become
differently.
more self-aware and
Yeah, you
more aware
use
of what your kids are going through and less reactionary.
more aware of what I'm doing to my kid and what
Right.
I'm doing with my language and with like it's amazing because I see it all the time how much fear and sort of negativity parents bring completely unintentionally because
Yeah.
people can be kind of sloppy with language and we don't think much about it. We just want to
Right.
get something across. And so that, you know,
Yep. 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 Yeah. That if I knew then what I know now.
right?
Yeah. Um, do you have a favorite birth story of a client or one that maybe completely surprised themselves and perhaps even you?
I think it's so hard to pick because they're all like inspiring in their own
Mm,
ways. And so many different interesting things can happen. So I've worked with a mom who came to the birth center and she was 2 centimeters dilated and they needed her to be at least 6. And they said, do you want to walk? And she kind of listened to her body. She's like, no, I just want to sit here. And she sat in the chair for 2 hours. And she said, I was just breathing. And she said, I sort of like lost track of time because that happens. It's like this
It
time
went into a
distortion
trance
that,
state.
yes. I mean, there's a natural time distortion that happens in labor, but she was
Yeah.
just bringing herself deeper in. And she said, I sort of came out of it when there was a midwife standing by me. And she said, you're grunting. So I want to see what's going on. Let's get you in the room. And they got her in the room and she was fully open. She was ready to have her baby
Wow.
in 2 hours from 2 to 10
That's
centimeters.
amazing. Yeah, I don't know
So
if I would want it to go quite that fast, but yeah, no, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love that
yeah,
story.
I think the stories of dads who go from, there was a couple I worked with, and in the first birth, dad was terrified. He was actually the reason that mom ended up getting an epidural because he was so worried. And he's like, "Oh no, no, she's in pain. Let's do something." And he told me, like, he's like, I just felt helpless and I was so afraid.
Mm,
And the second time he was there to actually support her. And he was a partner, and it was a very different birth experience.
that's
So,
great. Yeah, working with the dads.
yeah.
I bet
I
the younger generations are probably a bit more open to it. Yeah. Do you think?
I think most of the dads and partners who come in into the class, they want to be involved.
Hmm. And they're probably already, they've done a little bit of homework, a little bit of research. They kind of know a little bit about it before they even reach out, I imagine. And then you have a website so they can learn even more,
Yeah.
which I did just put in the chat for our audience, Rachel. If you're interested in checking out Maria's website or the Hypnobirthing Institute, if you're interested in learning to become a hypnobirthing practitioner. And do you want to share any last insights or anything else, anything that you might have coming up that you would like to introduce people to, or anything that, I don't know if you offer anything to the public or not, but I figured I would give you a platform to share it if you do.
Thank you. So it's just the series of classes that I teach, and then doulas and midwives are also welcome to audit the class
Oh,
if
that's
they'd like.
great. So they could just come in and just kind of be there to get the information and soak it up along with
Yes.
the the clients. That's
Because we
beautiful.
because we want these providers to be aware, to know, to be familiar, to know how to support families
Yes.
who have taken
Yes.
the program.
Oh, that's
Um,
fantastic.
I'd love to connect with people who are either interested in learning more about birth, connecting with the birth community, or maybe people who actually work on something like deep trauma,
Mm.
that, I don't do, but I'd love to grow my deck of referrals for
Yeah.
clients that may need that kind of work.
I'm all
Not,
about collaborations and connections. So,
yeah,
yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah,
I think it definitely takes a village with birth.
absolutely. And with
Yeah.
raising the kids too.
Yes. And
We say
then
that, but we don't do it in this country. But I
for
think we
raising
need to
the
go
kids.
that it takes a village to raise the kids. Like I think that we need to go back to that philosophy. And maybe we're starting to, but things have been just so like, independent to like the moms, at least this was, my youngest are 24, but it was kind of just expected that I would just do everything and somehow magically know how without being taught and without help. And it was crazy making is what it was. Yeah, we
Yeah.
need to go back to the village, like let everybody help.
I love nesting parties,
Oh, what a great idea.
right? So to me, that's like a way of starting to build your village ahead of
Yeah.
ahead of birth.
Instead of just a baby shower, like a whole nesting party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when people like prepare food and you freeze it
Mm,
and you put it away and they help you fold baby clothes and like decorate the room and like
I
help
love
you
that.
be there to support you. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that too. What a great idea. Well, thank you so much. This has just been so much fun. And I will edit it and get it up on YouTube, and I'll send you the link so that you have that too. And I wanted to just say also for Rachel and our audience, tune in next month, the first Wednesday of almost every month. I have these. And Scott Sandlin from Hypno Thoughts Live is going to be here sharing all kinds of information about the world's largest hypnosis convention held every July in Las Vegas. So bring your curiosity, and find out what they have in store for us this year.